Ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
The Star Fantasy League Show puts you in control of your own team. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, and co-host SFL CEO Zach Stanley and Nick Steblenko. The Star Fantasy League Show is on the air now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team in Rochester. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined for the first time in a very, very long time by SFL COO Seth Young is here.
Say it's a pleasure to be here, but I hate seeing your face.
Zach Stanley's not sitting here. Are you referring that to me?
Yeah, you're pretty ugly. I don't want to look at you.
Okay. It might be the fact that you're wearing an ugly, old-school Patriots sweatshirt, and I've been making fun of you all day for it. Did you get that at like a swap meet? Where'd you find that?
I got it on eBay, actually.
For $7.
Yeah, probably. Something around there.
That sounds about
like
right.
$9, actually.
Also joining us, SFL family member Matt Footer, who we've done this show for over a year and a half now together. This was the original inclination of the Star Fantasy League show. And, this is going to bring back some weird memories, right?
Yeah, we were pretty terrible back then.
How dare you? Yeah, how dare. Actually, the early version of the show was funny because we had no clue what we were doing, and all we did was fight on the air.
No clue, no filter, no nothing. It was no holds barred.
Hold on. What's changed? All we do is we have like a radio outlet. That's the only thing that's changed. We're still ridiculous.
My sweatshirt's changed. My pants have changed. A lot of things have changed since then, John.
I actually work here now. That's changed.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You actually work for the company now. It's a little weird. It's okay, Seth. You haven't learned this yet. At least once a week, Zach fires him. So
yeah, I'm at 2 right now.
You?
Yeah, he's been fired twice.
All right, that's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And he hasn't gotten paid yet, so that might be part of it. I'm not really sure. It doesn't really happen. Sorry, we fire you. Get off.
All right.
Get off the radio. All right, we got to get into the show today. Today is Friday. You know what Friday means, right? It's time for the weekend Fantasy Focus, where we break down everything daily fantasy football.
Fantasy Focus. Da, 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 da.
Okay, I don't think we had music back in the day. We still don't have music.
That's a great intro.
Is it, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so on the Weekend Fantasy Focus, if you're not familiar with the show, tweet us at SFL Show and say why you're confused and why you don't listen to the show every week.
Don't tweet us. Nobody wants to hear from you.
That's not very nice. That's what he keeps saying. I don't get it. Why do you hate our listeners so much?
I don't want to hear from the listeners.
That's fine. You can tweet me at SFL Show. I read the Twitter anyways. All right, so we're breaking down
the Twitter.
Before we get to the Weekend Fantasy Focus, where we give you all your greatest plays for StarFantasyLeagues.com this weekend, we got to break down last night's atrocious debacle of a football game.
That's putting it nicely.
I was trying to put it in a real world sense, but man, I went to bed at halftime.
I have one thing to say about this.
One thing. Oh, great, thanks.
Bobby Rainey, I trusted you, and you failed me. You failed me. You know what? He did pick it up in garbage time. He had, I think, 8 catches for 60-something yards?
He had over 100 total yards, actually.
But you know what he had at halftime? 4 carries for 8 yards and 2 fumbles.
Yeah.
I wasn't very happy. I went to sleep at halftime.
No, I played him. I wrote about him this week. I told people, play him. He's going to have a huge game. And now I look like another disappointment. So.
Oh, now I know why Zach keeps firing you every week. Oh, it's because you suggest playing Bobby Rainey.
You know what? I picked up Bobby Rainey in almost all of my teams, mostly because I had Doug Martin. Get this. On one of my teams, I had Adrian Peterson, Doug Martin, Ben Tate, and Mark Ingram.
Oh, that is
very bad.
You're all injured.
I picked up Bobby Rainey off the waiver wire, and obviously I traded Julio Jones. I had no options. I traded Julio Jones for Frank Gore and Danny Woodhead.
That's depressing.
Isn't it? It's so depressing.
Well, after what Julio Jones did last night, we suggested I went on a limb here and said I didn't think Roddy White was going to play because I didn't think they were going to do the same thing they did last season where they kind of just trotted him out there as a decoy. And what did they do? They deactivated him before the game. They gave ample time for Harry Douglas to get in there.
Who got hurt?
Yeah, he did actually. After he got a touchdown, though.
Yep.
But Julio Jones, without Roddy White on the field, just is the guy. Like, every target went to him, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Tony Gonzalez there as a safety blanket anymore.
No, it's Levine Tuilolo.
Yeah, and
What's wrong with that?
He's not good.
I thought he was going to be a nice player after week 1. He got the red zone target and the touchdown. But, yeah, it's pretty much Tulio or bust. I mean, that's – actually, Steven Jackson looked pretty good last night on some of his runs.
Last night.
Yeah, considering he was up against a defense that doesn't seem to want to stop anybody. I don't think last night – I talked about this on yesterday's show. Zach said it might be a close game last night, so I need to insult him. Zach, you were very wrong. I said it was a must-win for Tampa. I didn't think they had the skills to actually make this a must-win game, but their season's pretty much over right now because they're at New Orleans or at Pittsburgh next week, then at New Orleans the following week.
They're going to beat Pittsburgh. I know you're a Pittsburgh fan. Pittsburgh's in the toilet too right now.
Okay, 3. You think they're going to win after being 0-3? They're going to win 2 big road games in a row to not go 0-5?
You telling me Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
I think Tampa Bay can beat Pittsburgh. I think if they have any team that they can beat in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be Pittsburgh. If they don't beat Pittsburgh, then they're in some serious trouble. But what I did like to see was Mike Glennon coming in late in the game. I think he should have been the starting quarterback to start the season.
He looked good last season. We talked about him on this show several weeks in a row where he just came in and he seemed like a game manager. He wasn't the blow you away with fantasy stats guy. He just seemed to get it done.
I'll tell you what, that game last night was the best game Doug Martin had in 2 years.
I see what you did there.
It's the truth.
That's embarrassing.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean, I hate Doug Martin. Not as a person, but as a fantasy player. I avoid him with pretty much everything.
I didn't know you had so much bias and hate in your heart, Footer.
I do. I have a few guys who are in there, so.
Oh, please tell me more.
Oh, they'll come out during the show or future shows, that's for sure.
That is probably true. All right, we need to get into the weekend fantasy focus. My favorite day of the week.
Favorite day. Da, 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 da.
Great. We have apparently more interim music. Thank you so much to Seth Young for being on the show today for
you're welcome. It's my
your
pleasure.
useless melodies. All right, let's get into it first.
I like him.
No, don't encourage him.
Hey, thanks, man.
He might hire me back, all right?
That is true. By the end of the show, you may have a job here.
It depends on what he says.
That's exactly right. All right. During the Would You Rather segment of the show in the third segment, we'll see if he
I'll just
argues.
go, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yes.
All right. First up is Value Corner, where we give you the value picks for cheap that are going to help you make your lineup. Because let's be honest, when you build a lineup on StarFantasyLeagues.com, you can't put in the top guys. You can't just put in, I'm going to put in Julio Jones 17 times. It just doesn't work. You got to put in the cheap guys that help build your lineup so you can put those big names in. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there are a lot of value picks this week because there are so many injuries.
Honestly, this is the most I have ever written down on one value column.
That is a lot.
It's a lot.
You could shake those papers and show how
I have
much
6 pages. Yeah.
You typed that. I'm looking straight at you, and it's definitely not handwriting. I have some handwriting. Matt's got some handwriting. You typed it because your handwriting looks like chicken scratch.
That's pretty terrible.
I don't deny that. All right, let's start out with QB because the quarterback position is pretty important this week. There's a lot of guys at $20,000 and above, which means you can't put 2 of those in. It will ruin your fantasy team. So who do you got for some value?
A couple of guys that I really like this week, pretty hot commodities across season-long format as daily, is Kirk Cousins, obviously at $9,000, playing against Philly's defense, sitting 29th against touchdowns thrown against them. They have 5 thrown against them in 2 games. Another guy that I do like is Brian Hoyer as well, again at $9,000.
Brian Hoyer?
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but my goodness, man. Brian Hoyer this week against Baltimore?
Yeah.
Oof.
Baltimore is first against passing touchdowns, so I really like Hoyer for a couple TDs.
Yeah, but who's going to catch him?
No, Jordan Cameron might or is going to play this week.
Andrew Hawkins is a beast, man. He's been lights out. He seems to be consistently.
You're talking to a guy who in a keeper league took Miles Austin for God's sake. Okay, good. So you saved him for $14 and then you dropped him.
I don't know why I did that.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah.
It's a horrifying idea.
You know, I actually agree with Kirk Cousins this week at $9K. I think he's a must play at that price. As a matter of fact, I picked him up on the waiver wire in some of my season-long leagues.
You should.
And I would play him in just about all my daily lineups, given his matchup against Philadelphia, and given the fact that I think he should have been the quarterback in Washington a long time ago.
Yeah, on this show, Nick's been stressing that since well before the season, that Kirk Cousins is going to be the guy.
He fits better in that offense, and RG3 has just looked bad. I mean, for a guy, what's his third year in the league now?
Yep.
You figure he would at least have his feet under him, and that's not a pun.
No, he literally doesn't have a feet under him.
He literally does not at this point. But come on, I mean, Kirk Cousins has looked great in relief. I like him this week. I also kind of like Derek Carr against New England, I have to say.
New England's defense has been great this year.
New England's defense has been fantastic, and I've been high on. I haven't been on the show that much, or at all really, but I've been high on the New England defense for a while. I think they're going to be a top 5 defense this year, but I think that game also has a chance to turn into a shootout. I think James Jones can be a deep threat. I think Derek Carr is going to put some points on the board.
That's interesting. My out-of-the-box pick this week, only if Eric Decker's healthy. Alert, he may not play. I think Geno Smith could have an interesting game against Chicago.
Oh, my.
I know. Geno Smith actually looked pretty good against Green Bay, who has a terrible defense, as Chicago does. They both are just teams that like to give up the long ball. If Decker plays, great. If he doesn't, I would not touch him with a 100-foot pole.
I want to add one more name to this list, and I know I'm wearing a Patriots hoodie today, but Tom Brady at $15K seems like a great value pick against Oakland.
I was saying that before, $15K, but the other two guys on the show did kind of stress that Tom Brady's kind of just been – he's kind of been going through the motions. He's not really going to blow anybody away in this game.
The thing that scares me is I think they'll get so far ahead that he won't have to throw the
ball. That's what I'm saying.
You know, I think that this game might be a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people. And I'm a New England fan. I just think that the game is going to be closer than people think. I think that Oakland is finally starting to mesh a little bit. James Jones wasn't their number one going into the season. I think he's solidifying himself as number one.
Junk time Jones.
Yeah. You know, he's looked good, and I think that having a dynamic receiver like him on that team and a rookie quarterback who's looking to make a name for himself, all that's going to play into probably a closer game than you think.
All right, let's move along to value running backs because I have so many written down that I can't even name all of them in the entire show. So we're going to start off here. Usually there are a couple under 10,000 we like. This week, honestly, I could name like 5 or 6 I like.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I mean, there's guys, I went super cheap. Like I'm like down at the bottom of the
All right, who do you got?
now. I got a couple guys, either Matt Asiata or the backup there now, Jerick McKinnon for $3,000. Are
you really going to go with that deep?
I'm going super sleeper deep. New Orleans defense is 20th against rushing yards. Either one of those guys, I think McKinnon might get his legit shot this week. Asiata was running the ball for like 3.8 yards.
He's not that good.
No, he's just a big guy who runs it. A couple other guys I had. Donald Brown, now the starter in San Diego.
I think I know Buffalo's been good against the run this season and last season, but Donald Brown's going to get all the carries there.
He was catching the ball as well.
Yeah, that's true. He was
last year he could catch the ball. Yeah.
In overall fantasy last year, he was the 26th best back, which is kind of surprising. I wouldn't have put him there. Another guy, Justin Forsett. I mean,
No, you will stop with that.
Go on, I want to hear what you have to say about this.
He's only listed for 5,300. He's averaging 63 yards a game. Cleveland is 26th against rushing yards, and I think it's a great matchup for him.
I will stop that quickly by saying that, Le'Veon Bell destroyed them in week 1. That's probably why part of that's in there. Kyrie Robinson for $700 more at $5,900. I think he is probably the no-brainer value pick of the week. Him and Ahmad Bradshaw I might be starting both of them. Ahmad Bradshaw against Jacksonville and Robinson against Minnesota.
See, I want to chime in here. I like Donald Brown, especially at his price of $3,700, even against Buffalo. I also like Danny Woodhead at 6.6K. I think he's only in PPR leagues, so in daily fantasy he's relevant.
On Star Fantasy leagues, he's more relevant than you could imagine.
I think that Justin Forsett is probably a play that you want to avoid. I like Kyrie Irving. Terrence West is also a good play. Kyrie Robinson.
Wow, Kyrie Irving for Cleveland.
Also like Terrence West at under 8K and Toby Gerhardt at 9,700.
All right, we are going quickly because there's so many value plays this week. We're coming after break, and we are continuing with value wide receivers. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
The Star Fantasy League show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Donald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy League's team by tweeting at SFL Show.
We are back, and we have absolutely no time for your Giles mailbag questions today because it's the weekend fantasy focus, which means we're focusing on value.
And I want to just go back to where we were at with talking about running backs real quick. I just have a point to make about Jerick McKinnon. I think that he's a great pickup if you're in keeper leagues. I think next year, I think Adrian Peterson's career is in serious jeopardy with the Minnesota Vikings. I think he may have played his last game there. Jerick McKinnon, it looks good. I think Asiata has proven himself enough to keep the starting job for now. I don't think he's necessarily relevant for daily fantasy. But one guy I really like that I also wanted to get in was Toby Gerhardt. I know he's had a horrible first 2 games. I'm looking at a bounce-back game for him against Indianapolis. I know that line hasn't been good, but he really needs to do something to keep a handle on that starting job. Because
you can't say he needs to do something. He's not going to. He needs to. Sure.
The Jacksonville team needs to win this week. It has to be a confidence booster. I think Toby Gerhardt's going to have a good.
All right, you know what? That's actually a good spot to move on from with the transition because we're talking about wide receivers for value on StarFantasyLeagues.com. I'm still on the Allen Hurns train here because, let's be honest, Okay, Marquise Lee is out again. Alan Hearns had a great first week when Shorts was out. Shorts
coming back.
Shorts is coming back, but I like Alan Hearns as a complimentary guy as opposed to the number one guy.
Alan Hearns put up a goose egg last week for
He
everybody.
didn't put up a goose egg.
Yeah, he got nothing.
Did he really? He got 0?
He went for 110 last week, and he still has 110 yards.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Whatever. In this game, this is going to be a shootout. Somebody's going to get theirs in this game, and I honestly think with the value of 56.44, he's worth the flyer.
Well, somebody's got to give Henny time to throw. Otherwise, he's going to get nothing again. But I think with Cecil Shorts back, I don't know if they're going to have him on a snap count. He's been hurt. It was a hamstring.
Yeah.
He's the guy there. He had the most targets in the NFL a season ago. And I think, as he gets himself back in, Alan Hearns is going to become a non-factor in that offense.
But it's daily fantasy. You can get it right now. That's all I'm caring about is right now.
Sure, I think there are better picks.
Name a few.
For one, I really like Brian Quick versus Dallas. Mm-hmm. If you look, I think he's the 17th receiver, 17th most yards in the NFL this season. By receiving yards, that is. I can't speak today.
He was 173, through 2.
And he's playing Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Dallas, let's be honest. Dallas' defense has not been as bad as advertised going into the season, and they get Orlando Scandrick back this week, which will definitely help them.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that with the combination of Austin Davis and Sean Hill, Quick is still managing to get 14 catches through 2
that's
games,
actually
which is pretty impressive. So
they're leaning on the one good player they have because Tavon Austin's going to be out this week as well.
Yeah, so. I think it's a sneaky play at $7,000. I'll tell you 2 other guys I really like, both in the same game as New Orleans versus Minnesota. One is Marcus Colston, who for the first time in his career had 0 targets thrown his way in an NFL game last game. At $9,100, I think he's got a clear bounce back game this week against Minnesota. And on the other side of the ball, I really like Greg Jennings at about 8.8K.
Really?
Yeah, and
you're not going Cordero Patterson in that game?
I like Cordero Patterson, but Greg Jennings, I think for the value, is going to get some targets. Probably see the red zone, the end zone. I like him in that game, especially against a dynamic offense like New Orleans.
I got someone in that same game actually, and he's actually a third-string wide receiver right now. But if you're talking super value, Jarius Wright at 34.21. Jerome Simpson was cut yesterday, so I feel like this game could be a shootout, and I think he could end up getting some targets.
Minnesota's offense is bad.
It is. Another guy I want to add in too is Devontae Adams from Green Bay. He's actually listed even cheaper at $31.63. He's got 5 catches for 50 yards through 2 games.
Wasn't that all that was most of it in the last game.
Yeah,
too,
so he's playing that kind of slot role where kind of Boykin filled in last year.
Yeah, they said he's gonna kind of vault over him eventually.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, essentially. Cobb had that role a few years ago when they had Donald Driver and James Jones and those guys. So I feel like he's going to take the best of his opportunity. Maybe not the best option this week, but because Detroit is actually really good against the pass. But if you're looking for something super super cheap, throw him in there.
The only problem with all these value guys we're talking about is because the guys that aren't crazy expensive are really good options this week. Like Golden Tate's only $10,600. I think he's going to have a monster week. Pierre Garçon, if Deshaun Jackson doesn't play, I love him as a top option for the week, not just for value. He's only $11,200. Then Andre Johnson, $12,300 against the Giants, who can't stop anybody. Anybody.
Yeah.
And then these guys, you spend a little bit more. Even Reggie Wayne, you spend a little bit more against Jacksonville, and you get great value.
Funny story about the Giants. I've been shopping around Eli Manning in one of my keeper leagues, and I keep trying to make great trades. What I think are great trades. So I
quote unquote great trades.
I proposed Colin Kaepernick. Because, Eli Manning, he's a Manning. There are only 2 of them in the league.
It's true.
He's a rap star. He's a commercial star.
It's true.
He's got Super Bowl rings. What does Colin Kaepernick have?
How many fantasy points do you get for Super Bowl rings?
Colin Kaepernick is an unproven quarterback, and I think at the end of the season you also get points if your quarterback continues to look stupid, just in general.
Oh, in general. You mean the face, yeah.
So, I feel like it's a good trade. I feel really bad
giving him up,
yeah. But I'd be willing to do it.
All right, let's move on since Seth had to get that in on the show today, just to make sure that everybody knows what a great trade master. You're basically the trade master as well as the flavor master.
I just proposed him for Brandon Marshall and it was rejected, which I don't understand. So now I have him on the block for Julian Edelman.
All right, let's move on to tight ends for value. I don't have that many written down this week. I'm kind of interested to see what Jordan Reed does in this game, if he's actually going to play or not. If he doesn't, I love Niles Paul because Kirk Cousins knows who he is.
I'm with you.
Sure. I mean,
you're not interested in the Niles Paul train. He looked great last week.
Yeah, he did. I don't know. Philly, I feel like plays pretty well against tight ends, defends them pretty well. Dwayne Allen was really obsolete last week.
He's pretty obsolete.
He's
in
kind of
general.
obsolete
Yeah,
in general.
exactly.
He had a nice first week.
Sure.
Somebody that I really like is actually Charles Clay against Kansas City for
Clay.
7,200. Kansas City got pretty torched in the short game last week against Denver, and they've given up about 40 yards and a touchdown each of the past 2 weeks to a tight end. So, if you're looking for value there, 40 yards and a touchdown is pretty nice.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I really like Travis Kelce this week. Or is it Kelsey?
Kelce.
I don't really know. But I do know that Alex Smith is throwing to him, which kind of makes me hurt to put this.
Say
put
you
this
love
on
Alex
here.
Smith.
But seeing as he's a tight end, he's probably running routes that are under 10 yards. Alex Smith can probably hit him more than he can hit any other receiver. So I like Travis Kelce. I'll tell you who I also like, if Jordan Cameron doesn't play, for extreme value at just over $3,000, is Gary Barnidge. You see his name come up. He catches a ball. He gets some red zone targets. He's a very big reach. I think you have better plays than that. Larry Donnell is another one.
My boy,
The Giants,
Larry Donnell.
Even though they're playing Houston, who is arguably the best defense in the league.
They're going to need it. They're going to need the safety blanket in that game.
Somebody's going to have to catch the ball in that game, and I think he's
Barely.
okay.
All right, let's move on quickly. Defenses we like for value. I think pretty much a lot of these teams. The most expensive on StarFantasy.com is $5,000. If you're getting a defense around $2 to $3,000, I feel like that's pretty good value. Love Dallas this week against St. Louis. Love them.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think St. Louis looked okay enough, even though they have Austin Davis or Sean Hill throwing the ball. I don't know. I'm not really so high on that. You have your pick of defenses. Most defenses on StarFantasyLeagues.com are between $2,000 and $3,000 at this point. I think more expensive than that is the Patriots and the Seahawks, who I like.
And Houston.
I like the Patriots at their value against Oakland. But if I had to pick a team, I would go with the Colts versus Jacksonville for an even $2,000, or Baltimore at $2.4K versus Cleveland.
I have to agree with Indianapolis. They're the cheapest defense. They're playing a terrible Jacksonville offense. I think it's a great value pick. Another one actually is only $14 more, which I understand why they're so cheap this week. But Seattle, they're playing Denver, but they're playing Denver at home, and they are pretty much lights out at home. I'm gonna put them in for $2,014.
Nobody sacks Peyton Manning. Nobody intercepts Peyton Manning.
Except Seattle in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I don't like this.
See, I would not take the Seahawks this week against Denver. Whoever Denver's playing, I probably would not take their defense in any game in any season.
Not
while Peyton Manning's behind the ball.
Yep. Not a lot of Peyton Manning's behind
He
the
is
ball.
a Manning. That's true.
Not while he's behind the ball.
Wow.
I mean, behind the center.
There we go. I was wondering what you were trying to get out of their mouth there. And it
What do you
didn't
want
work.
from me?
All right, we got to move on to weekend winners real quick. We're just going to pick who we think is going to be our top scorer of the week on StarFantasy.com at each position. You guys think you can do that without rambling on for 10 minutes?
Julio Jones.
Okay. Yeah, that already happened. That game
I
already
win then,
happened.
Right? Oh, okay.
That's not how this
See,
works.
I would have picked Matt Ryan at quarterback. But if I have to choose one for a weekend winner, I like Tony Romo this week for a bounce-back game, too.
Sounds about right. What about you?
I'm going to go with Drew Brees, actually. 0-2 at home against Minnesota. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game.
I like the changing of the guard in the NFC North. I think Matt Stafford is going to prove that Detroit is for real after their crappy game against Carolina. But Green Bay's defense has been horrifying. They made Geno Smith look good last week. Matt Stafford, Megatron, get that entire team involved in your lineup, please. Yeah?
Sure.
Seth's like, no.
Well, look, I picked Tony Romo for my weekend winner, so I don't agree with you.
I mean, I think Green Bay and Detroit could easily put up 40 points each.
I mean, the over-under there is the second highest of the week. I figure that game you have to have some exposure to have a winning lineup. Some kind of exposure.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on to the running back position. A name on StarFantasy.com I never thought I'd see at the top was DeMarco Murray is the number one running back right now.
I have him in every single league that I am in.
And you are so happy.
Very happy about it. I bid very highly for him in one of my auction drafts, and I thought he was going to have a great year. He looked great last year. I actually had DeMarco Murray's name crossed out here.
Really?
Because I think Arian Foster is going to have a bigger game against the New York Giants.
You know what the funny thing is? It's funny that you mentioned that because I have DeMarco Murray written first, but Arian Foster right below him. I think they could have comparable weeks. I personally want to go with Arian Foster, too. I had him as my value pick of the week last week. He was in every single one of my lineups. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, I had DeMarco Murray written as well. I mean, you can't. The wild card for me is Chris Ivory, actually.
Oh, Jesus.
And here's the reason why.
I know Chicago's bad. We get it.
The Jets are first in rushing yards, second in attempts. They gave up the Bears gave up 193 yards week 1, 127 week 2. Basically the same size back as Anthony Dixon for the Bills, and Dixon was torching, the Bears. So I'm going to say Chris Ivory is the top runner this week.
Wow. I did have him as a value pick, but like way down on my value list. But that's certainly one out there. Another guy I would mention just being way out there on the radar, Andre Ellington with Dwyer not there for reasons we don't want to talk about ever again. Andre Ellington is basically going to get all the carries he could possibly want and more. I think he's going to be a red zone target, catching all the balls out of the backfield. For only $13,000, starfantasy.com, he could be an interesting pick.
As long as he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, I don't trust him.
He is fragile, but apparently he's not. They say he's not going to injure it by playing.
He's a little man.
Oh.
He is. He's a little man.
He's like 5'8", isn't he?
Yeah, he's
little.
tiny. He's a little guy.
All right, let's move on. Top play of the week for wide receiver. Who you got?
I got somebody who it's pretty much going to be an excellent matchup all across the board, and that's Andre Johnson as my top wide receiver because they are playing the Giants defense, who Calvin Johnson just made look like complete fools. He pretty much took on
He does it to everybody,
but
though.
he took on all 11 defenders of the defense and just said, "Come at me." So I got Andre Johnson. He's only at 12,000. So if he ends up pulling out, like, you're going to be able to save some money there. So
it's funny. I could have stacked the Cowboys here for my weekend winners against St. Louis.
But you didn't.
I've got Des Bryant as my weekend winner here.
Sounds about right. I am going with the big name as well. Like I said, Matt Stafford's going to throw the ball a lot, and Megatron is your guy this week. He may be near the top of the prices, but he's going to get to the most points. Isn't that what you're supposed to do in fantasy? Get the most points? It's
true. That's usually the idea.
Yeah, it's going to be Megatron. All right, coming back, we're giving you our weekend winners for tight end, and we're playing Would You Rather. And you're listening to the Start Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Nick, only on The Team.
Wow, that is a double dose of wrong. We are here with Jonald, Footer, and Seth Young's back.
I'm back.
I can't believe you're back.
Yeah, it's good to be here, I guess.
I could have sworn the FCC said you're not allowed on the radio anymore.
Well, whatever.
What whatever. Yeah, they're gonna hear this show live and be like, well, is that? Didn't we said something about Seth? He's on a watch list, I think.
I have nothing to say today. I'm humorless today.
Well, sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's you normally.
What do you want from me?
Some humor, isn't? Wait, no, sorry. This is the Star Fantasy League show. We don't want humor. Yeah, we want some expert. Well, you're not gonna give that either. So
come on, man. Expert analysis. You didn't even hear my tight end weekend winner.
Okay, then let's get to it because that's a great. He actually has. You know what he's good at today? Segues. That's the second good segue he's had today.
Did you know that the guy that invented the Segway actually drove himself off a cliff on a Segway?
Did you know that the guy
It's ironic. It's an ironic death.
Did you know that the guy who invented the Segway also invented Segways?
What? Like Segways as in...
Yeah.
Like segueing from
Yes.
one topic to the next?
Yeah, he was around in the 1400s. You didn't know that?
No.
You have absolutely no idea what's going on right now,
You're
do you?
dropping knowledge all over us.
I read the internet, so I'm clearly up on all this stuff. All right, what was your tight end weekend winner,
For our
please?
listeners who are not in our studio today, I want to relay to you the dumb face that John had when he was saying those things.
No, I had a pretty confident face.
No, it's just always a dumb face.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. It's called resting dumb face.
Resting dumb face.
It's a disease. I have a charity fund run coming next week if you want to donate to it.
It's a thing.
At SFL Show. Donations.
They already tapped me for that. So.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh. I'll try to get you.
We're having a benefit dinner at Chuck E. Cheese.
I'm not allowed there. We can't go to Chuck E. Cheese anymore. We're over like 10, so I'm not allowed to go in there. It's not going to happen. Great. All right, please give us your weekend winner for tight end since you've tried to throw it to it like 8 times and I just didn't allow it.
I don't want to.
Okay. What about you, Footer? You got a tight end weekend winner?
Yeah. I'm going back and forth on this one, but I'm going to go with Antonio Gates, actually.
Who may not play. But I said that and everyone laughed at me.
Yeah, I mean, he's listed just under 11,000. He's actually second in receptions among tight ends.
Just he killed it last week.
Jimmy Graham. So if he plays against Buffalo got pretty torched pretty bad week 1 against Martellus Bennett. They kept Charles Clay in check, which I said they would last week because he just doesn't become a factor against them. So he's a scary matchup for the Bills. So.
All right, what about you, Seth? You ready?
Who do you have?
All right, I am going with the conditional pick. Another guy, I did like him, but another guy who might not play because of a freak scary injury he had last week is Vernon Davis. But my one tenet of fantasy football has been pick the tight end going against the Arizona Cardinals. They were by far and away the worst team against tight ends last season. They have continued that trend this season already, getting torched by, you just said it, Antonio Gates, first week. Vernon Davis, 10,254. I think he could, if he plays and is not limited, again, watch the injury report Sunday morning. If he plays, I think he's a no-brainer.
I really like Rob Gronkowski to actually make a mark this week, especially against Oakland. I think that he has the potential to be a tight end weekend winner. I also like Antonio Gates. I have him on most of my teams. He's got big hands. He's a security blanket for Phillip Rivers. He's always a great pick, especially if he plays. If he doesn't play, Ladarius Green's a great option too. But for weekend winner, I think Gronk is going to be up there this week for sure.
Yeah, I had Gronk written down for a potential value, but with Vernon Davis at the same price, I kind of have to go that. And obviously, we're not saying Jimmy Graham is not going to be at the top, but maybe number 2. Oh no, Jimmy Graham number 2 this week.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right, let's get to quickly defenses before we move on to the best segment in the history of this show. Would you rather? Quickly, defense, winner of the week.
New England. I think it's hands down that they're playing against.
Oh, hands down.
Yeah.
No, you don't get to do that.
It's going to be the Texans against Eli interceptions Manning.
Eli, his middle initial is INT for some reason.
Yep.
How did that happen?
Well, it was supposed to be Ian, but now it's INT
I like that.
for interceptions.
I won't make Derek Carr's middle name interceptions because that would be inappropriate. So
His middle name is Drives the.
Derek drives the car?
Yes.
No, I don't like that at all. All right, we are done with weekend winners, which means it is time for you two to put on the boxing gloves and fight over Would You Rather.
We actually have boxing gloves here.
Yeah, this is not a joke.
Yeah,
Why
we're
would
gonna
I
put them
joke
on.
about something like that?
Every time that Matt says a bad Would You Rather, he's going to get punched in the gut.
No, I wear the boxing gloves. You two just talk. That's the whole point of the segment.
So it's a metaphor. It's verbal boxing.
Well, yeah, I have gloves, and anytime you guys screw up, I punch you with boxing gloves.
I still have a fat lip from last week, actually.
Well, that
That's
had
a
nothing
deal.
to do with that. You just were talking out of line.
Oh, that's true.
Don't do that again. Seriously,
Can you
don't
just
talk out
fire
loud.
me next
That's
time?
not funny considering all the domestic violence
That's true.
talk going
This
around
is
the
man-on-man fighting. This is football. It's allowed.
Oh, man on man. Okay. That's
Yeah, it's allowed. You forgot that I was a man, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Yeah.
All right, let's get to Would You Rather. I write these down. These two have never seen these before. I propose 2 names similar in price on starfantasies.com, and you will fight it out.
Would you rather?
Okay, this is the worst music in the history of TV or radio.
I'm joining in from now on just to add to the effect.
He's just trying to get on your good side.
Come on, let's
For
do it.
now.
All
I'm
right.
setting them up. I'm buttering them up, and then I'm
Let's do it.
taking them
Matthew
out.
Stafford, 20,932, or Aaron Rodgers, 10,374. They're in the same game.
I knew you were going to do this one.
Of course you did.
I'll take Aaron Rodgers. I think what Jordy Nelson did last week puts him as a bona fide, legit wide receiver to be in that top tier. I don't feel like he's going to come off that high this week, and I really think Rodgers has kind of a bone to pick after not winning week 1. Kind of getting showed up and barely winning last week. I think Rodgers is going to come out gunslinging. So.
Well, I couldn't disagree with you more.
Perfect.
I
matter
did,
of fact-
didn't I say my pick of the week for top quarterback was Matt Stafford?
I think everything you said is terrible, and I'm going against you with Matt Stafford.
Great argument.
And why?
I actually happen to agree with John. I agree with you, too. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a great play, but I think that Matt Stafford is going to pull it out. I think Detroit's going to win that game. I think Calvin Johnson's going to have a lot of yards. I think Golden Tate adds a new dynamic to that offense, especially with Reggie Bush and Joique Bell catching passes out of the backfield. I think Stafford's got the more tools at his disposal right now in the passing game.
than he's ever had in his career.
Yeah.
It's a great team for him. All right, I agree with Seth. Yay, punch in the face for Matt Footer. That got weird. All right. Tony Romo, 16,742, or Andy Redhead Dalton, 17,425.
Is this even a question? I mean, really, is this a question? Tony Romo's my weekend winner, so I'm taking him over just about any quarterback. But against Andy Dalton? Are you kidding me?
Andy Dalton going up against Tennessee, who has not shown that they like to stop anybody.
There's no argument here for me. It's Tony Romo.
You can't disagree, can you?
Nah, unfortunately I can't.
All right, that's fine. You're allowed to agree on the show, but when you do agree, that means I punch both of you.
Sure.
So just
All right.
keep that in mind.
We'll take it this time.
All right,
so.
fine. All right, we're moving on. Ahmad Bradshaw, 68.89, or Niall Davis, 77.97. These are two guys who are probably going to be filling in. Let's be honest, Trent Richardson's not a human being.
This one's an easy one. Niall Davis, to me, he's a top 12 back this week if he plays. I think he showed last week in a relief effort what he can do against a pretty good Denver defense and was able to score twice. I really think paying just a little bit more for him, you're getting a guy who could legitimately get you 100 yards and a couple scores in the end zone.
I would agree with you if he plays. I know Jamal Charles has been back practicing, so if
yeah, but they're not going to risk that.
if Jamal Charles is playing, I like Ahmad Bradshaw better. Ahmad Bradshaw also looked really good last week, catching the ball out of the backfield. I think he's a better option than Trent Richardson. I still don't know why Indianapolis went after Trent Richardson. I just don't get it. I mean, I guess he had a lot of hype behind him, but Ahmad Bradshaw is my pick. If you ask me, would you rather Ahmad Bradshaw or Trent Richardson, my answer is still Ahmad Bradshaw.
It should be.
Yeah.
But I do think if Niall Davis plays, he's going to have more upside than Ahmad Bradshaw.
Okay, so you just gave me the wishy-washiest answer I've ever heard.
I'm saying if
He's
Niall
picking both
Davis,
guys.
Yeah, he is picking both
if
guys.
Jamal Charles is out, Niall Davis.
Okay.
If Jamal Charles is in, Ahmad Bradshaw.
Obviously, I was doing this as if Jamal Charles wasn't playing. God, you're the worst. You ruined the sanctity of this game.
Punch for him, right?
Yeah, he does get a punch. Now you get another one. LaShawn McCoy, 17,141, or Gio, don't call me Gio, Bernard, 16,561. He hates the name Gio. Isn't that weird?
He does. Giovanni.
You know, I think that that LaShawn McCoy is probably the play here, even though I actually traded LaShawn McCoy away in most of my leagues.
For Danny Woodhead.
No, I got a better deal than that. But Darren Sproles has looked really good.
I loved him last week. Put him in all my teams.
LaShawn McCoy. I think that in that offense, it's a great fit. I don't think LaShawn McCoy is the kind of running back that you need to have a committee with. He's a workhorse back. He's shown that he's fantastic. I think against the Redskins D, LaShawn McCoy is a clear pick. I like Giovanni Bernard also, but I think I can't go against LaShawn McCoy.
Completely wrong. Gio Bernard all day. He was being talked about in the preseason as possibly not having a bigger role with Jeremy Hill coming in. That's false. He's still catching the ball. He's still running the ball. They're going up against a Tennessee defense where DeMarco Murray shredded last week. So I loved Gio Bernard this week. He's been a beast. He might end up the season possibly as the top back if he continues on this trend. So
Yum. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I actually agree with you there. Reggie Wayne, 11,263.
Reggie Wayne.
Okay. Or Golden Tate, 10,645.
This one's tough. This is actually a really good one. I'm going to say Golden Tate. Like I said before, I think both Green Bay and Detroit have the potential to put up 35-plus points in this game. So I feel like Indianapolis is going to be so far ahead against Jacksonville that they're going to just kind of pound the ball, and Reggie Wayne's not going to get as many catches as Golden Tate will. So I'm going to say Tate in this matchup.
You know, I'm also going to go Golden Tate, but not because I think that Indianapolis is going to be so far ahead. I just think that Reggie Wayne is a little bit less of a factor than he used to be. I like Golden Tate a lot better than Reggie Wayne, especially with T.Y. Hilton on that squad, with Ahmad Bradshaw catching the ball in the backfield, with Kobe Fleener as
Hakeem Nicks is apparently on this team. I really haven't seen him exist.
He's had a couple of catches, but
Yeah.
they're spreading
He
the
looked good
ball
in the
around.
preseason.
Yeah,
They're spreading
great.
the ball around pretty well in Indianapolis when they get it going. I like Golden Tate better as a more better upside option.
All right, I put this question here because Zach said that Demaryius Thomas was his play of the week at wide receiver against Seattle. So Demaryius Thomas 14,643 or Dez Bryant 15,748.
Yeah, I'm going with Dez Bryant. He's my weekend winner at wide receiver. So you're basically taking my weekend winners and putting them up against people. So I can't go against that now. But
Because I knew your weekend winner coming in.
I also think that Dez Bryant is going to have a better game. He's got a better matchup. I like Tony Romo for the bounce back week. Dez Bryant has been, I won't say a non-factor, but less of a factor than he usually is. I think he's going to have a big game. It's got to be a confidence boost for Dallas.
Yeah, I can understand why Zach said that Demaryius Thomas
No
likes
idea.
him this week.
No idea.
Seattle's actually hasn't been that great against wide receivers in passing yards this year. Got torched pretty bad by Antonio Gates last week, but I have to tend to agree with Seth on this one. I'm not even going to try to argue Demaryius Thomas because I don't think there's really a point. So I'm going to go with Dez Bryant.
I think it's funny that Richard Sherman. People said that he was exposed, and he goes, 3 targets or 3 catches, no
50
touchdowns,
yards, something like that.
Yeah, he wasn't exposed, but I think that the Seattle defense against the pass is a little bit overrated.
Playing the baby Chargers, as he calls them.
All right, we got one more quick before we head to break. Andre Johnson, this is a flex option. Andre Johnson, 12,309, or Andre Ellington, 12,904.
Well, since he was my top wide receiver this week, I have to
But he's going up against a running back.
Andre Ellington's terrible. I'm going to go with Andre Johnson. Andre Ellington, I don't trust him.
Terrible.
I don't trust him being healthy enough to sustain a full game and be successful.
He looks good at 80%.
You know, I think this depends on your risk tolerance in your lineup. And if you want guaranteed points, I mean, you're going to get guaranteed points out of both these guys. But I think if you want, more consistency here, I would probably go with Andre Ellington. I think he's going to be a good option.
San Fran shut down Matt Forte for 21 rushing yards last week. If Forte went off week 1, I have to go with Andre Johnson.
Forte is a bigger back. Andre Ellington is a little wily.
Yeah, he is a little wily. All right, coming after the break, we have one more Would You Rather, and we're going to end the show with Stack of the Week.
Stack of the week.
There we go. I was waiting for it. And you're listening to the Start Fantasy League Show on 105.5 The Team.
Getting up.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
We are back, and we're not yet wrapped up because I got one more Would You Rather for you two. And
Would you
Seth,
rather?
No, you don't get to.
Rather.
Yeah, you don't get to do this. This is not your thing. Before we get to the Would You Rather, though, if you've been listening to all of our picks on StarFantasyLeagues.com, you should get involved in the game today, and I have a bonus code just for you. It's called FREE14, FREE14. It's a 100% deposit bonus to $2,000, and you get an $11 credit directly in your account. You can use to play games right now for week 3.
That's very generous.
I know. Zach has tried to not get me to do that, and I just keep offering it. I don't listen to him.
I'm all right with that.
All right, so the last Would You Rather, if you want to play this weekend, is Pierre Garçon, 11,212, or Rob Gronkowski, 10,318.
That is a
really
really good question.
Oh.
If you have to put them up against each other, I think if Deshaun Jackson doesn't come back, Pierre Garçon's a clear-cut pick. But I also like Gronk.
No, stop it. Pick
Deshaun
one.
If Deshaun Jackson is not back, Pierre Garçon. If he's back, Gronk.
I think the point of this is
conditional garbage.
Yeah, I think the point is if he is playing this, and this is what we're going by. And that's
This is it. I'm assuming that I said earlier in the week, Deshaun Jackson is talking a big game, which means he will not suit up this weekend. That's what I am assuming is going to happen. So Pierre Garçon, I personally like here. But go ahead.
I mean, I got to go with Garçon. I don't trust Gronk at this point yet to completely get back to where he was. Garçon, whether it's RG3 or Cousins thrown at him, just seems to get double-digit targets every game. Gets the looks. I love Garçon.
I personally think Garçon is going to be one of the top wide receiver guys of the week. That will round out the best segment in the history of the Star Fantasy League show, which means all we have left is Stack of the Week, where I have to get you guys to not agree on anything ever. Pick your Stack of the Week for me. Seth, how about you start? Because
Dallas, baby. It's all about Dallas. I love Dallas against St. Louis this week. I like Tony Romo. I like DeMarco Murray. I like Des Bryant. I even like Cole Beasley and Jason Witten.
Get the heck out of here with Cole
I like
Beasley.
everybody on Dallas this week.
Except Terrence Williams, apparently.
And Terrence Williams. So if I have to stack any team this week, it is Dallas.
Jonald, you're going to hate mine. Baltimore.
Who?
Baltimore Ravens.
I'm not familiar with this team.
Is
this the team that plays in the NFL?
That smacked your team last week all day.
Remember how I said you were auditioning to be hired back to start fantasy leagues? I don't think you know how that works.
I support this.
What, him being fired?
Excuse me?
What? Him being fired? You support that?
No, I support his Baltimore against your Steelers.
No, they're not playing
Cleveland.
the Steelers.
Playing Cleveland,
Yeah.
but
Well, I know they played last week.
Yeah, but hate not. Yeah, Steve Smith Sr. is
Stop saying
playing
senior.
awesome.
I hate that. I hate that so much.
Been one of
Excuse
the
me.
biggest
Steve
surprises.
Smith Sr. has looked great again. Dennis Pitta, I even like Baltimore's defense in this game. So.
Okay, I'm sorry, but with all of the great stack options this week, I have 4 written down, and you guys only hit on one of them. Nobody's interested in New Orleans this week. Are you kidding me? Against Minnesota, Drew Brees, Kyrie Robinson. I like Brandon Cooks personally, but he's basically, if Kenny Stills come back this week, that scares me a little. But Jimmy Graham, I know you're spending a lot of money there, but Robinson's cheap. Green Bay, you got Aaron Rodgers and Eddie Lacy and Jordy Nelson.
There are two
Let me guess, you
teams
gotta pick Detroit.
that I would pick, and that's Detroit
Yeah.
and that's Dallas.
Detroit's my big one. Detroit
And
is my
here's-
pick of the stack of the week. by far.
Here's why. Because they are both carrying the legacy of John Kitna on their backs.
I can't believe you managed to get a full-on, actual Kitna reference into this show. But no, seriously, Stafford is going to be the top-scoring player on Star Fantasy League this week. I think he's going to have 4 touchdowns, 350 yards. He is going to destroy. Megatron's going to get most of that. Golden Tate, get in Joik Bell. Reggie Bush is also a human
I
being.
got to tell you, I know that John Kitna is back in Tacoma, Washington, teaching his math class. The probability of a Dallas stack or a Detroit stack dominating daily fantasy sports on
100%.
StarFantasyLeagues.com this week.
Yeah, StarFantasyLeagues.com this week. Play 100% deposit bonus to $2,000 and an $11 credit. Just use the bonus code FREE14, FREE14. Get involved in Week 3. We have, over $12,000 in guaranteed prize pools and a $500 free roll. What gets better than that?
Well, you hit the nail on the head with all the free cash that we're giving away.
That is true. And if you don't know how amazing John Kitna is, you clearly haven't been listening to this show.
Kitna!
Take it easy, guys.
Kitna. Turn off your radio.